I don't understand math. So every time it
Mm.
comes around, they're anticipating the math class coming, and then they're in the math class, and so they're worried about that class coming, so they're having this anxiety. Then they get in the math class, and then they have the breakdown, and then their class is in that session of the class is over, and now they're so angry and amped up because they couldn't handle it, and then they say you have more math homework.
What's up, peoples? It's your bartenders, Mr. Z.
And your boy Omega.
Today, Omega and I have a chance to chat about some recent concerns surrounding distance learning and the mental health of our students, teachers, and parents. As every episode, we want to thank all of you for listening. We truly appreciate you listening to our hearts and minds on varied and difficult topics.
Special thank you goes out to our Patreon subscribers for their support of the show. Every little bit helps us reach our goals to invite more high-profile guests and create bonus content.
Patrons, be on the lookout for our next bonus episode, Woke, coming this month. And if you want to join in our conversation outside of this cast, feel free to hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at HaveADrinkCast, and make sure to use that hashtag, HADcast.
Remember, this is always a conversation. If you don't agree, you want to voice your opinions, or even suggest a topic for an episode, feel free to join our Discord as well. The link will be in the description.
And please, if you like what we're doing here, share us with your friends, your family, your neighbors, heck, even your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Your referrals mean a lot to us, as that's how we gain more listeners. So,
Thank you again.
and get prepared to sit
Think.
and have a drink.
Welcome to Have a Drink Podcast. Enjoy the episode.
We said peace. What's up, peoples, and welcome back to another episode of the Have a Drink Podcast, where we invite you to sit, think, and have a drink. We're your bartenders, Mr. Z.
And I'm your boy Omega. Hey.
Hey, and today's episode, again, brought to you by our brother Omega. What's happening, my dude?
Oh man, life is beautiful, but it has its ups and downs, just like any roller coaster. And in other words, that's what makes life worth living. And on today's roller coaster ride, on our one dip on the roller coaster, is we're talking about distance learning and the effects it has not only on educators, but also on students and parents. So, and it's funny is because I am all three. I am an educator. I am also a student, but I'm also a parent of a child who is doing college through distance learning. But I have a lot of nieces and nephews. Obviously, everybody's got nieces and nephews or somebody that's going through distance learning. And I was having a conversation this morning with my nephew. He expressed some concerns and some feelings, right? And it was like, I had texted him like over the weekend. I was like, yo, Neff, just thinking about you. So just holler at me, just how's school and how are you? That's it. Monday morning, he messages me and he's like, oh, cool. And he goes, well, he put, school is a disaster. And honestly, I'm not doing the best. My grades are going down and my stress is going up. The teachers are assigning about 2 to 3 assignments a day, and I have 7, as in 7 classes. Lastly, I can't sit down for 6 hours a day, plus the homework they are giving. It's also difficult to focus because all you do is stare at a screen, and you get headaches after a while. Some teachers only allow 1 minute break after 70 minutes of listening to them. And I was like, I kind of told him what my schedule was. And I was like, this is very hard and stressful. So just remember that you're not alone and that we'll get through it together. I put, what do you do once you're done with your school day? What is your weekends like? Just trying to get outside of, just the class, right? But normally I do nothing on Saturday and I do all of my homework on Sunday around 12 and I stay until 2-ish. I do about 2 to 3 projects a week and 2 tests a day or a week. And 2 to 3 assignments per class is like with 7 periods. I'm like, man, I was like, okay, well, how about outside time, social interactions with people, physical activities? And he goes, I go for 30-minute walks most of the time. It's like, but oh yeah, not to mention parents getting a little upset about my grades. I mean, but that's expected, you know?
That sounds like college courses. Shoot, like
Yeah. So this is a middle schooler talking about this. And I'm like, yo, like, this is crazy, you know? And then I was really sitting back and thinking about it. It's like, I struggle with it too, to an extent, you know? It's like there are days when I'm in here working for hours, hours. Sometimes it's busy work, but I'm here like trying to like be in solitary confinement. That's how I feel in this room. I feel like I'm in solitary confinement with just this table, my laptop, and a fan, trying to bang out work, you know. The professions that I chose have nothing to do with me revolving around a laptop and having to sit down and sit for long periods of time. Unless I'm editing something for myself or doing whatever, that's it. Yeah, I don't have any real reason. Like my
other than
chosen
this.
field is outside. Huh?
I said other than this.
Yeah, other than this. And this is
Yeah.
only a couple hours a week,
Yep.
you know,
Not a day.
not a day.
And
But
like
now,
I could see that fatigue.
yep. And now it's like I'm on for about 5 hours of teaching classes, you know, but my classes are different because I'm doing physical education where I'm up and I'm down. I have a lot of excitement, a lot of energy over the camera, but I have to give more to keep the kids engaged, you know. And I can only imagine the other teachers who are teaching math, reading, social studies, science, whatever, and they have to figure out ways to keep the kids' attention, you know, and it's very difficult. But the craziest thing is like I hear a lot more complaints from the parents because it's either I don't know what they're learning, or they're learning things differently from how we learned, or it's I don't understand what they're doing anymore. This is all brand new. Now I got to go back to school just to help my younger kid out, or it's just you know like my kid. I don't have the patience to be with my child and help and do this, or I can't stand the way the teacher teaches. You know, there's so many different things, and it's like everybody's at this different level with
Mm.
around revolving around education.
You know, it feels like the pandemic especially has opened the flaws of the educational system as it is currently, you know. The kinds of the kinds of course loads that uh, teachers, you know, are going through, you know, the kinds of the teaching load that they have to deal with 32 students on a Zoom call, you know, trying to get everybody to focus and pay attention and not have time to have everyone speak like they, you know, like on a call with 32 people in a class, if you're taking roll, that takes up a half an hour in and of itself if you give one person like less than 30 seconds to speak. Hey, I'm here, you know, give a little thing about yourself. I like this, that, go on. And like, I mean, we know that even in class itself, but like, like you get to see it on its for what it really is. Like, you know, people, like even the parents at home, you know, when they're looking at you know what the teachers and what the students are doing, you know, they see how the teachers are taught. So like some place people are seeing how teachers talk to students. Sometimes it's, you know, better than the how the parent talks to the kid at home, and then sometimes it's worse than how the parent talks to the kid at home, you know. And like you get to see all of these like holes and flaws and, you know, like the things that need to be fixed, which I mean, they say squeaky wheel gets the grease, but it also gets replaced. And like that's what it feels like. You know, they're just trying to do. They're just trying to replace that feeling for us and say focus on something else. Like just do your job, focus on something else.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
it is. Like that was just the you know the thoughts and feelings of a middle school kid, right? Like I work with elementary school kids, you know. So like today, some kids are really spacey, and I mean spacey and helpless, where they don't think about how to do something. or how to solve a problem, right? So like I started developing this language of saying, we are going to use solution-based thinking today. So I have to tell my kids, we are going to use solution-based thinking. Now, when you hear solution-based thinking, what does that make you think of?
You're going to try and, come up with solutions rather than problems to situations.
Exactly. Now, imagine this. I'm going to ask you, okay, I'm going to give you a full-on example of today's class. Are you ready?
Yep.
Are you ready? You sure?
Hit me with it.
Okay.
Wait. Okay, go ahead.
All right, let's go. Okay, so today I need you to give me a sandbag. A beanbag. I'm sorry. I need a beanbag. And if you don't have a beanbag, get me a rolled up sock. Get a pair of socks and roll them up. Go right now.
Okay.
If you don't have one of those, I want you to be solution based thinking.
Boom.
Okay, so we got rolled up socks, right?
Uh-huh.
Mine's a little funky because they came off my feet right now, but the rolled up socks. Okay, now some of these kids they do that. Thank you. Now let me tell you this. I had a kid. I had this happen a couple times today, but I had one kid that took up most of my period. So he's not at home. He's at a care facility, kind of like education-based care facility. He's standing in front of his camera like this, just standing there. And I'm like, okay, please, mind you, I have 20 kids in the class. I'm like, kid X, can you please ask an adult or a person in the room with you to please help you get a beanbag or a pair of rolled up socks? Looking, unmute. I can't. I don't have socks here. Mute. I said, I understand that, but can you ask an adult or one of the people there to help you get a beanbag or something that you can use for our class today? No, there's nobody here. I said, sir, there is an adult standing directly behind you with the number 10 Jimmy Garoppolo jersey on in the cupboard directly behind you that I'm looking at through the camera. If you just turn around, and I mean, turn around and say, excuse me, can you help me get this? There's nobody here. No, there's only teachers here. Child X, can you please go ask one of the teachers? And then I hear a lady talking to another child right now, in the moment as I'm talking to him, talking to another child, trying to tell them to stay focused and stay on task. I said, the teacher, because I noticed that he said teacher, so I had to be specific. The teacher who is talking to the child right next to you, ask them for 2 paper towels that you can ball it together so you can make something. There's nobody, sir, there is a grown-up teacher right next to the computer. And then I think they heard me and they go, is somebody asking something? I said, yes, can you please help? He said, I need a paper towel. She said, then go get a paper towel. You know where the paper towels are. Go get it. Okay.
I resonate. Wow, with that.
Mind you, that was one kid. I have 19 other kids in the classroom that I'm trying to keep on task and focused to work. On top of that, I have a substitute teacher in the class. Mind you, I am not the official teacher. I am a paraeducator. I am a helper to the teacher. I am an aide. But I've been around so long and I have so much experience, they treat me like I am an equal.
Right.
The kids look at me as such, everybody does. When we have substitutes, I teach the class. The sub just gets paid just to be there.
Right.
Sir, can I tell you, even the sub was looking at me and going, she started laughing. She was like, is this really happening right now? And I'm like, welcome to my world.
You would be surprised, man. Like, that is, I can only imagine what you deal with. I mean, I just deal with a couple classes because, my tiny humans, they're doing distance learning as well. They're in 2 different grades, they're I get to see the experience, but trying to keep kids on task, trying to keep them. I'm like, even one of my children, I, s- I mean, I'm right there, and like, brother, when I say that is reminiscent of one of my tiny humans, I'm like, really, like, what I have come to notice with them is like, it's based off of other extenuating circumstances, like having low self-esteem, or you know um a lot of past experiences with other educators, people like authority figures that didn't meet their lack of knowledge with compassion, but it was met with anger, and so it causes them to shut down. And so I see that a lot, and I see that helplessness, and I'm so confused as to why they feel so dependent, because I'll sit back while one child is doing their learning in class, because I'm like, I know how smart you are. I'll give you all of your stuff, and I'll set it out to where you can get it where you need to. But then while he has his headphones on, he'll listen to the teacher and be paying attention, and I'll just be sitting back, if he needs help with something. But I've been trying to give him more distance, and when the teacher asks him a question or to do something or for an answer, he'll look back at me and be like, "Are you gonna help me with the answer?" And I'm like, "I what? Wait, huh? I have no idea what she just asked you." Like, weren't you just paying attention?
And the
I'm
same look. Weren't you just paying attention?
right. I'm yeah, but I don't I don't know. And then I just kind of watching all that. I'm like, oh, I'm wondering, where that is, what's happening. And then when I fully remove myself, I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on. I don't know the answer. So you'll have to try and figure it out and answer her yourself. And she and like the teacher, she'll sit there, be patient and waiting, and if the kids ask her for help, she'll help. But after a minute of that, he'll eventually answer the question himself, and I'm like, oh, okay, it was just finding that confidence of like, I know you're smart, I know you can do this, you can do hard things, you got this, don't worry about it. like I don't
That's
know,
beautiful.
you're gonna have to answer yourself, trying to give him, I was like, it's critical thinking, brother. And
Yeah.
you have to be able to work under even a small amount of pressure, and I understand that that's hard. And especially with the history of stuff that comes with how you learn.
Yeah.
It's you gotta keep going until you gain the faith in yourself. But yeah,
No, that's true.
to see how teachers are maneuvering these kinds of situations like that firsthand, it's hard, because I was gonna say another the other tiny human, his classroom, it's always the same kid that in the classroom is without a parent, without someone there. They just stick them in the upstairs bedroom, and and on the computer, and just is like, here, do your work, do your classes. And mind you, they're like kindergarten first graders, like
They need the support.
you need some support. I'm like, I like, obviously, I try not to super hover as a hover parent, because I'm like, I didn't like that as a kid myself when I did
Yeah.
independent learning, which is having a hover parent while I'm trying to learn, because there's extra anxiety, but
Yeah.
that's one thing. But then to totally be absent is another. It's I get
It's ridiculous.
it's 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 just difficult all around for everyone. Like you had mentioned that earlier, of how it is challenging for students, for parents, for educators, you
It's
having to
hard.
be all three. I have been a student not in distance learning. I mean, I do it through master classes and things like that. Not that I'm going back to school, but I do it with my kids, and I
Yeah.
feel like a student, and I'm
No,
also a
definitely.
parent, because I'm trying to learn how to teach my kids when the teacher has to they go through introductions, and that takes 30 minutes out of the class, which is only like an hour long, and then like the next 20 minutes they're fumbling with trying to get this thing to work, and then the next the last 10 minutes or of the class is spent trying to like do the last little bits of work.
Hmm.
It's hard for teachers. It's so hard for teachers, especially like I get the in-class stuff, you having all those kids and like getting their attention and keeping them all engaged when they're at different learning speeds. Like we have an opportunity with this, I feel like, with distance learning, to really reshape the way we teach and to be able to really understand how we can properly evaluate the types of education that individual children might need. Just like being able to match children up with the teachers that have the proper speed, the proper teaching speed, like
Yeah,
for their learning style, or making sure that the kids that are more hands-on learners are with the hands-on teachers,
I
the
agree.
kids that
I
are
agree.
visual learners, audio learners, textbook learners, like really being able to understand the psychology of children and people. Really, it's
I,
just like we're just giant children. Like it's just understanding the psychology of people in order to be able to help them learn better.
I brought that up in a college class, in one of my college classes, last year actually, tail end of last year, is that was part of one of my was one of my talking points was being able to, if we have, because you have your grades, you have your, let's say, kinder through fifth grade, you'll have anywhere from 2 to 4 classes per grade. So think about that. If you have teachers that teach different teaching styles like that, and you can figure out those kids that deserve or will learn in those styles better, have them be in that class. But the only issue is sometimes those classes will be so lopsided where there's so many in that one class because that teacher is a star, that teacher's great.
Right.
Everybody wants that teacher, but then that also, kills the others. And we've
Right.
had that.
But that's why you would stock the like that's where funding for education is really important. They say that that's where the lottery money goes to, is funding education for the states. But like there has been lots of studies and full on exposés about how that's not actually what's happening. Like what is supposed to be going to them isn't going to the schools, it's going somewhere else, going right
Yeah.
back to the state in a different way, and all these weird shady things in different states,
Yeah.
if there was some sort of actual funding that goes to the schools that could be able to provide for stocking the staff with these different types of teachers, not just like a specialty niche teacher, or just like have have well-rounded teachers, some that cross over in different areas that could be able to help, that don't like overload them. I mean, if some people are better at learning at home,
Yeah,
like, hey,
that's
give me
that's
my
gonna happen
stuff.
now. That's gonna happen now more. Is you're gonna find those that are good with being independent learners and being able to go to learn online. Will do that
Yep.
even when schools opening, and those that desperately need to be there, they will. But I want to go back to talking about the about what the experiences are with that in regards, because like how you were saying, like I was telling, like we have that one child I was talking about. What I notice is they are is that they are so helpless. Like they don't know how to do anything on their own because I think they come from environments where everything is done for them all the time and they're not challenged to have to think on their own. So it's like I had to work hard not to lose my patience, and patience is my virtue, but
Absolutely.
sometimes it just gets a little worn thin. And I had to text his teacher like immediately after. I was like, yo, like, and I said
Old man
the
Gooch
student,
coming out.
right? I texted the teacher. I was like, yo, and I said the student's name. And she's like, I just met with his mother and told her that, like what her issues are with him. And I was like, oh, so I didn't even say what the student did or anything. I just said the student's name. And she told me exactly what my experience was in the matter of just the one class today. And she's like, this is an ongoing thing. So I was like, okay, so now that we have this communication as to this is an expectation, not an expectation, but this is a reoccurring thing that happens with this child. Now I'm going to be more understanding, but be more tactful with it, right? And I feel like we need to be more observant and be more tactful with how we are going to work with these kids in regards to this, because I feel we are doing so much. Like everybody's under pressure and under the gun. We got to get these kids. Like I've heard quite a few parents actually be like, school's too easy for these kids. I have to give my kids more work. I have to give them more. I'm like, yo, not right now. I'm like, you
Yeah.
don't need to overload them and do stuff and make stuff so hard for them right now. We're actually having some teachers dial back a bit
Right.
because you're thinking about ones and twos. We're thinking about ones, twos,
And mental health.
and mental health. Exactly. Like it's social awareness. Like there's so much more, because I feel like some parents only think about the educational side. They don't think about the social emotional side of school.
Well, I mean, if I mean, even that, like, if parents, I mean, fuck that. If people were
Thank you.
more um like emotionally available to like or more honest about their home situations and not so like caught up in like stigma or whatever that is of like, hey, this is our home situation. I I hope that the teacher or the people, the faculty, everything that's helping with the education of my child would be accommodating to that sort of situation.
Yeah.
Especially like an example with you, what you just said, you as a teacher, you know, now that you know what the living situation is like at home, that it's more you're more able to or you're more likely to accommodate that type of like the type of attention or care that this child may need.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then another thing too is that it's like I think we have an awesome district, like my district that I work for, and I love my school. I think our school is awesome. But I was also thinking about how it's like even though my school and district is so awesome, so great, there's always room for improvement to be better. And I like that about it. And the fact that I like the fact that the higher ups listen, right? And we listen to the parents and everything, but I feel like the parents are under so much stress, and I'm saying this just from being one. They're under so much stress about their own living situations, about how ends are going to meet, what they're going to be able to do, and they're looking at some of these kids like they're supposed to be adults or in college already, where they want to overload them and they want them just to be busy so they can stay out of their hair, if that makes sense. And I'm like, I get it, I 100% get it, but you also have to allow them some space to be a kid.
Right. I mean, you said this, you said it to me before we even started the podcast today. But you were saying how like some parents are even like, like, oh, how come they're not able to sit and do their work, because you mentioned, sitting there at the computer for like 6 hours during class time, and then like have to do like probably a minimum of 3 hours of more screen time afterwards. And
Doing homework.
yeah, doing homework, and like parents are getting upset because they're like, oh, you could sit in front of video games and for hours on end and not feel fatigue. But that sort of stuff, like when we're mentally engaged, when we're like, my response to that was like, we're getting a release of serotonin, dopamine, like we're getting our fix of like good feelings, good vibes, we're entertained, our brain is engaged in like we're getting. Funny enough is like when I used to play video games, I would learn a lot more about some of the subjects and things that I was learning in school based off of like the explanation of different types of physics and things that were happening in the game, or
Hmm.
psychology, or what have you, just like history, etc., etc. Like, I was engaged in it because it was something like I'm interested in. So I could say, yeah, I could sit there for hours on end. But when you're just sitting there in a room full of people and the teacher's just talking, like, even that, like, I wouldn't want to play video games after being on the computer all day, because I wouldn't want to look at another screen. I don't want to go take a nap. Like,
Exactly. Or at
like,
least you want to do something mindless.
right, do something mindless. Yeah, like you could veg out in front of the TV, no problem. Like, put on just
Netflix,
Netflix is notorious for that.
everything,
Everything.
all TV. That's
Everything.
why everybody's been doing it. It's mindless.
Yeah.
It is. It's going to sound so weird when I say this. It's like how sometimes women will ask a man, like, "What's on your mind?" And you're like, "Nothing." And they're like, "How are you just sitting there and saying nothing's on your mind?" It's like literally nothing.
Nothing.
I am just existing in this moment. I turn my brain off. I kind of lightweight turn my body off. That's why I'm not moving, and I'm just here.
Right, it's funny. It's like we have in our brains we have this box, and it's called the nothing box, and nothing goes in it and nothing comes out of it. Like,
I love that box.
right, like you could just exist there without anything. Like, I have to stop thinking, or I'm gonna, like, my brain is gonna hurt. Like, I'm gonna have a headache because I keep thinking, and then, like, I'm gonna keep thinking and keep thinking and keep thinking and like, even that is like garnering a headache.
It really does, and it's like
To
that's how I
expect
feel
kids to
about the
do that.
kids.
Yeah, expecting the
Yeah,
kids to do that. It's like, really?
it's ridiculous. Like, bro, my schedule is like I start later for work, but I end later, if that makes sense. So as opposed to starting at 8 a.m. like I usually do, like when we're in school, I start like at 11:20.
Right.
Now, mind you, 8:30 to 9:30 is like when I say I start at 11:20, that's when I start teaching, like actual have a class running is at 11:20. But I have like collaborations and we're doing planning and stuff like that, preparing for the day or for the lessons. So that's what we do at 8. That's kind of easy. It's kind of just me time, just to kind of prepare my mind. But it's like, man, when I'm in there, it's like my energy's got to be way up. And I know some teachers are like, I can't do that. Like, I can't have all this energy for a TV screen. Whereas I'm an entertainer, you're an entertainer. Like, we get it,
Right.
right?
We get it. Like, I can amp myself up whether you're here or not. Oh.
Right, exactly. And that's what I don't, that's the kind of like the hard part, but that's the blessing for our classes. Like for PE, it's like we have that time to just really amp them up, get their energy up, and have them having fun. And then it's like, like I started experimenting with teaching them more about like the body parts, like in kindergarten today. This is what I did for kinder. Same thing with the beanbag situation, like games and activities. That's what I did all day. But I was like, I'm gonna experiment with some things because I know like their parents are there, but I just want the kids to try and learn something a little bit more than what they usually do outside of this. I was like, you know what? Everybody wave your phalanges. And they're kind of like, what, phalanges? I was like, move your phalanges. And then like, what are phalanges? And then one of the kids, those are your fingers. It's like,
Oh.
exactly. you know? And I'm like, all right, we're going to work with our phalanges. Okay, now, what is this muscle? Show me your muscles. And we're doing this, and I'm trying to think like, okay, if I get them moving their body a bit more, even though they're focused intently on the camera, if I get them to move more, I'm going to get their brain to move, to think better. So let's do it. And like, I'm trying to
Exactly.
think of different ways. I'm like, so show me your muscle. And they're like, show me your muscle. I'm like, what is this called? This is your bicep. Bi. What does bi mean? What is bi? I said, if you have one, you have two, you have three. What is bi? Think like bicycle. Like, and I'm trying to do something. They're like,
Bicycle.
yep. And they went, I sang that today, believe it or not. And I was like, bicycle. How many was it a bicycle? They're like, two. I was like, yes. So think you have two muscles that make up your bicep. And, and I was going this and I went to tricep and I was working on this, right? So then we were talking about, balancing, your beanbag on these things. And I was like, use your phalanges. And we started using, like vocabulary words,
Right.
stuff that I know
Giving
that their teacher's not going to do.
Exactly. Like, I mean, I feel like those instances create moments where kids will have an extensive vocabulary and they'll be repeating the word apparatus and they won't even know what that, like they'll know what it means and they'll know how to use it. They won't know how to spell it, but like, You know, it's in their vocabulary. Like
I'm,
I had an extensive vocabulary and realized I could understand large words. It was, I don't remember what grade I was in, but as I was reading, I was like, oh, I know what that word is. Like I looked at it and like it had all of the sounds that like I'm like, oh,
mhm,
it's this word. And somebody looked at me and they were like, really? How do you know? And I was like, oh, I've heard it before. I've heard it before. I've had it repeated before. You know, like it was
mhm.
in my life enough to like, you know, give me that extent to my vocabulary. And you know, funny enough, you know, like you're using anatomy, you know, actually teaching the scientific names for fingers and toes and you know, muscles and you know, like different areas of muscles and skeletal structure, like, you know, like
It's
it's
important
it's important. Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
fun. And then
Yeah,
you see like some of the kids are like looking at their parents like, what is it? And you see the parent, it's fingers. It's fingers. I'm like, yeah. I'm
yeah,
like, yes, your parent was right. But
yep,
then I'm also like, okay, how do I have the parents be engaged or at least be supportive of the kids? So I have the kids interact with the parents still, or it's like I'm having fun. I may say little things that go over the kids' head that only the parents will get. And I'm doing that
right,
because,
right.
as you know, it's like we're in entertainment. So I got to figure out some way
To
so that
engage,
they,
yeah,
yeah, to
get
keep
something out of
everybody
it.
engaged.
But
And
we
I'm
have
like,
to, in those instances, I would caution on the side. I would err on the side of caution because, I mean, think about the kids who don't have parents or even adults around while they're
I
doing,
always think about that.
you know, like what, like, I mean, sometimes that hurts, you know, to be like, oh, I don't have a parent or I don't have an adult near me that is willing to help me. um because like when they go over the bio parents house, you know, they like it
Hmm.
when they do homework, it's like their parent doesn't want to help them, their parent doesn't
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
be around, and like that instilled some pain and like some frustration in them, and like it made it hard for them to like enjoy a moment. Like they'll get pulled out of a moment and have
yeah.
like a second of dissociation. But
Oh,
um
yeah.
yeah.
I definitely don't make a point to highlight that all the time,
Right,
but it's
not
an acknowledgement.
right,
It's like I want to acknowledge them or like thank you to those that are there to help,
right.
and I'm like, that's it, because sometimes you have those that, it's nice to hear a thank you every now and then,
Mm.
but then I also am very aware of those parents that are seagull and they
Mm.
want to be all up in the class. And I'm like, yo, you
Like
need to
you
back
already
up,
graduated, like
right?
go
They are all up in the class.
go go watch some TV for like a minute or so, or like go chill out for a bit. Yeah, no, I feel that. Like, I mean, I've even been guilty of it a little bit, and I'm like, oh, I and like, and that's where I noticed myself, and I was like, I gotta readjust because you're relying on me too much. You got this, you
Hmm.
know it. Like, trust yourself, you'll be fine.
And if
Like,
you
and if
don't
you,
know it, you gonna learn it.
yeah,
So
and if
no
you don't
problem.
know it, she'll tell you what's the right answer. Don't feel bad. No one's gonna make fun of you. It's like, oh, you
Yeah.
didn't get the right answer. It's cool. Like you did your best. That's important. Um, I
And
do
that's something else that's happened too,
right.
is that some of the kids get angry when they don't do
Mm,
well or they struggle or they miss a class and they get really angry and they have meltdowns. And then I
yes.
remember that there are some teachers and or parents that don't the express that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to get the wrong answer
It's okay to
because it's all a part
fail.
learn. Yeah. And that's something I've been talking like last week. That's what I was telling all my kids is I was like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. It's okay not to get the right answer. I'm like, this is the time to do it. So I can help you. Let us help you.
Where
Make
were we?
mistakes now so we can help you.
I was in the car with Jimmy G while we were on tour, and like and having someone on the phone and them really expressing that like their lack of understanding about the relationship with failure, you know, of like nobody wants to learn from somebody who's failed, and I'm like, that's statistically impossible to not learn from someone who's failed. Like,
They're some of the best teachers.
exactly, like some of the greatest masters have failed to the point of mastery, like where they're like, I understood all the things I didn't need to do, you know, scientists, that's how we have discoveries, but like the person couldn't grasp it, and it was because those people, like, I assume, like, much like in different situations and scenarios, but like they didn't have that relationship, that positive influence of relationship with failure in general. But I did want to pose a question to you. I think is really important. Like,
I did want to answer your question that you posed to me.
so so you're coming from, like I said, the perspective of the three realms of what we're talking about. But say you're in a situation, because you promote the idea of taking away homework for the time being in order to help create, a good place of learning and mental health,
Hmm.
for the children. What about what how would you help someone, like a kid, through, or even a parent, through a situation where that's not an option for them, but the kid doesn't want to do the work because it's so overwhelming and hard, so because there's so much, like there's so much to deal with their mental health. Like, how would you help them through that situation?
That's when being creative comes into play. So I would, first of all, I would figure out what is it that is the worst and the hardest thing for them to do. Because we have multiple subjects that we're trying to teach and get through in a school day, right? So it can be, they can be angry at the entire school day, but when you really talk to them and you really pull at those peel back those layers to figure out what it really is, then it could really be, I don't understand math. So every time it
Mm,
comes around, they're anticipating the math class coming, and then they're in the math class, and so they're worried about that class coming, so they're having this anxiety. Then they get in the math class, and then they have the breakdown, and then their class is in that session of the class is over, and now they're so angry and amped up because they couldn't handle it, and then they say you have more math homework, and now that anxiety rises again because they're like, oh man, I got to go through that again. I got to, and it's that continuous thing that's just that uneasy feeling. That would happen within social distance and within school. So my thing is we have to get creative on how to, one, identify the anxiety and identify the subject and identify where did it come from and how we can not so much as stop it, but address it and get them to recognize it. Once we can recognize it, then we can figure out a way to work our way up to where they will be at this either the same level as the class or at least a level above from where they are. And then the next thing is going to be give them a sense of empowerment to know that I can do it and I don't have to fret. And then my last thing is I would make them solving things fun
mm,
by associating it with something that they love.
mm. Yes.
So for me, I'm just going to be honest and be open with the people. Math was that for me. That's why I chose math. So it's funny, it's weird. People don't believe it or probably don't get it. I don't know, but I'll say it. As a kid growing up, I thought I was really good at math. And I was like, I used to love math. Until one day in middle school, I learned I sucked at it. I can pinpoint when it really became apparent. When my grandfather died, my grades dropped dramatically. And it was hard
Mm,
for me to focus. And math wasn't my strong suit out of everything. So that was suffering the worst. My dad, math genius, loved math, but never would ask for help because I wasn't around him for that. My mom, she would help me, but she was the iron fist in the house. So it's kind of intimidating. So if I didn't get it, it was one of those, you don't, you don't get, one of those type of situations. I'm just like, I ain't dealing with it. Put me in the closet by myself. I'll figure it out. Or I'll just sit there all night until you go to sleep. Then I'll go to bed,
mm,
you know. But I said all that to say, like, even in college now, like I'm in a math class right now as we speak. It's actually math for educators. So I'm learning not only how to do math, I'm learning how to teach math to kids in elementary school.
mm.
So I am learning Common Core and how to teach it. I too was like you guys, I hate Common Core. This is so stupid. This is blah, blah, blah. Now I'm like, I understand the purpose of it. Am I 100% on board with it? No, but I have an understanding about it. So I get it.
What is Common Core? Because I'm unfamiliar with that.
Common Core is a new way of teaching. And so it's pretty much like they reinvented the wheel and in terms of teaching math and science and English and all this stuff. Like they're doing it and from these different new concepts that they work. So right now, as opposed to just teaching regular algorithms, now we're teaching the purpose and understanding of what the math is. So like, why are you doing this?
Oh, that's actually kind of cool because I mean, I took a class like that in college. Like it was,
Mm-hmm.
it was. They didn't tell you that's what it was about, but like when you got in the class and like if you hadn't bought the textbook yet, you were SOL, and like the professor started in the middle of her thoughts, but like, you know, like she had already started the lecture before she got to class, and it was like, and so I was like, this is day one. What do you mean, and so? Like, I'm confused.
Where was the? Or in
Where?
the beginning?
Yeah, like, hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. No, and so, as in this blah, 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 we have,
Yeah.
what is this answer? And I was just like, oh my gosh. But like, we got the fundamentals of like why you use math. So the understanding of math. And
Yeah.
So, okay, that's interesting that's the new concept that they're taking.
Yeah, they're redoing things, and I mean like not redoing it, but they're extending the thought process. So in the long run, you'll get it faster. So
Mm,
right now, it's a lot of steps and a lot of work for younger kids in the beginning,
right.
but the end goal is you will have a better understanding, and you'll see the relations. So you'll see the relations between your addition, subtraction, multiplication into your algebraic expressions, and you'll understand your and all that stuff.
Right.
So, and I'm saying this because I had a high anxiety about taking math.
Right. Me too.
I had an extremely high anxiety with going into college math. I'm like, I'm gonna be 100% with y'all. I told my wife, I'm like, I am terrified because I am stupid in math. I will bomb this class. I am not going to be any good at this class. And everything was negative, 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 negative.
Mm. Setting yourself up for that idea of failure even before you started.
That's why this is my last two classes, chemistry and math,
Ooh.
to
Saving
graduate.
the
So in other
most
words,
daunting in your mind for last.
and in reality, what did I just do? Did math in a math class.
Yeah.
Because chemistry's got a lot of math,
It's a
you know.
science math.
Exactly. So I'm saying all this. I mean, I guess it's making a long story longer. Is I too can identify with those kids. So what did I have to do to change my mindset and my thought and my approach? Is like, you know what? I haven't taken math in years. I've helped kids before. I've paid attention in my classes. So all the classes I've sat in, I would actually do the math. I would actually try and learn and try and figure it out and just try to kind of do that so I could help my student. And I'm like, you know what? If those kids can struggle, so can I. Because if they can pass, so will I. But
Yeah.
I said, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a tutor to help me.
Hmm.
So I've been spending a lot of time with a friend of mine who I've known for years, and we've just gotten closer and we've been great. Over the summer, I was doing private lessons or teaching kickboxing classes, but he's like, like he hasn't been working. I was like, yo, you know what? It's good. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Just come and just work out. He's like, you know what? You have a math class you said you're going to take, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, look, you keep training me. I got you. Don't worry about it. He's like, the lucky thing for you is I 100% love math and I'm great at it. He's like, trust me, I got you. Let me tell you, I have been with him every week for the last 5 weeks. We have spent hours together. I have a 99.73% in my math class right now because I've been
Hey.
working with him. And I'm working so hard, but I'm actually retaining information. He's not giving me answers. but he's also not leaving me hanging high and dry. We are sitting there trying to really work. And it's been making me think, well, with these kids, we need to show them support, we need to show them love, but we also need to get creative. So it's like if I'm here and he's like, all right, well, this is how this problem is. So how about let's do this? Like, like think about like how we would do our demos, and we would set up our shows, or we would do these shows, or we would do this. He would help me with that. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And he would always do this. And it's like, and I'm in a comfortable environment.
Will you also get, so what I think you're saying, pardon me for cutting you off, but like,
no, please, I was talking too much.
No, you good. Like, what I was picking up was like, even the idea of having someone who's passionate about what they're teaching makes all the difference as well. Like you saw, like he was like, oh, I love math. I know math. I got you. Like, don't even worry about it. Like, this is going to be fun, because they understood it was something that they enjoyed. Like, I totally resonate with that idea. Like, when you were describing the kid who got anxiety and when math class came around, like, I swear you were describing my almost exact experience to a T, except you didn't go to the nurse's office to try and get out of doing math. Like, I would pretend like I had to tie my shoe and like I wasn't looking all around. So when she came around to ask the math questions, what's 9 times 11? Really easy answer. Like, it was just like it was like almost like what's a 0 times 5? What's 0 times anything? Like, like just a lob. And I was just like, yeah, I didn't do that one right now, but can I go to the bathroom? Like, I was really trying to like avoid it, or I gotta go to I don't feel well, can I go to the nurse's office? Like I get that. And like having someone who's engaged in it, feeling it, like really, really, like, even if you could take it from a place of, as you said, your own passion, if you can relate it to something that the person knows and understands and can relate to and is excited about and loves, like I try to do that with one of my kids. Like, they love to bake and cook and stuff like that, and we were talking about math in general, like math and reading. I mean, kindergarten, first grade, that's a lot of what they're working on, math and reading. And like, and when we're going, I'm like, okay, so the reason why I keep stopping you and I'm trying to help correct you is because, when you love baking, right? You love going into a cookbook and like you doing all the recipes and stuff like that. Do you want to make your own cookbook and recipes one day? And they were like, yeah. And so like, and like getting that like idea, I'm like, well, you're gonna actually need to know how to do math and numbers and stuff. So I was like, let's try to get this. Let's try to get this. Let's try to get this down, and like the intensity, the intent, the drive was different. It changed from being sluggish and like and helpless. Like, it's the same kid who was helpless in those moments. And so like I try to do that,
being creative with our learning and helping them. So like a change of scenery is important. Change of scenery is important. That could work wonders. It's like, even if you were just to be like, we're going to do your math, but we're going to go outside and we're going to do math out here, and we're going to do it like this. Just do it in the most different way. Even if it's grab some sidewalk chalk and let's do math outside on the sidewalk, and we're going to write it out. Something simple like that. Like, just change it up, get them away from the computer and have them do it. Like, that's why like I really enjoy this thing called Flipgrid. We use it for my PE class, but I've actually been using it in my math class recently too. And that's just a way to explain and show your work, or explain how you do this, or like, like teaching a class or whatever, right? And I was thinking about it, and I think I'm going to do it is have my kids, your assignment is you have to respond with a Flipgrid. You have to show me a push-up in another area that's not your house. Anywhere. So you have to go outside and show me a push-up, or show me 3 push-ups, or show me a sit-up, or do 5 jumping jacks, or show me your favorite warm-up activity outside that's not in your house.
On
so
grass,
or on,
or wherever,
but that's just some way so they can get outside and get creative. or you have to get one of your family members in your house to do something. If this was a math class, it'd be like, okay, I want you to do 3 problems, but I want you to get creative in how you show me how you're going to solve these problems. Well, how do you mean? Well, here for an example, on your flip grid today, we've been working on multiplication today. On your flip grid, I want you to go outside, and this is your problem. 5 times 3. You have to get me 5 of an item or 5 of whatever, give me 3 of another, and show me the multiplication of that. So it could be 5 rocks, and you say times 3 equals, and then you have to show me 15 rocks over here. That's how you solve your problem. That's your math for today. That way, it's not the same as just the regular thing. Or you could show me 3 groups of 5. Show me your results, but it can't be written or regular. It can't be typed. So now you're being creative and you're trying to get them to think about things in a more fun manner. Or if you wanted to, you could be, for me, like I'd be the kid. Show me what is the answer to 7 times 2? Oh, 14. Well, how can I get creative? Well, you know what? I'm going to do 7 roundhouse kicks on my right leg, 7 roundhouse kicks on my left leg. And then all together, how many kicks did I do? I did 14 kicks. Well, that's me being creative. So that's like, I feel like that's what's going to help change things. Is you just got to sometimes you got to flip the script and get them to think outside of the box, and also allow them some time to just be free in their thinking. Because after a while, this thing starts to look like a prison, because all I'm doing is I'm stuck to it. I can't get away from it. I can't get out of it. Only time I can get out of it or get away from it is when I go to sleep and when I eat and when I take a shower. So yeah. So that's why. So I feel distance learning is has its ups and downs, but it takes a community to help us all get through it, whether it's the parents, whether it's the kids, whether it's the teachers. And we just really have to figure out creative ways and not to burn each other out, but support each other. If you feel like your child could do more work or could do harder work, you can suggest to your teacher, or you can evaluate them on your own, and you can give them some extra work and where you know that they can excel. Or if they're going to be computer people and you know that and they love computers, teach them that trade, teach them that job now. If you want them to learn something, because then later on you may spark them to where they may want to actually pick that up and focus solely on that. So we just got to get creative.
And really, I mean, I feel like this goes without saying as a parent, but learn what your kid loves. Learn, learn what your kid loves in order to be able to reach them. Understand.
You mean I got to pay attention?
Yeah, man. Like, I know that's a new concept, but it's the only it's the only fee, man. It's just attention. It's the only thing you got to pay.
I love it.
It's gonna be the greatest gift, because if you really get to know them, it, like, everything else becomes essentially easy. Like being able to motivate them becomes easier. Being able to be able to relate to them, to get what they're saying, to get where they're at. Sometimes our world revolves around what we love, and the only way to get through to someone is to meet them there.
100%. I agree. I love that. And right there, I want to end on that.
All right.
That was beautiful.
Thank you, brother. Do we have any final questions we want to give to our Discord?
Discord and Patreon. Actually, I want anybody that's listening, what do you find is your solution-based thinking for how to be successful in distance learning? We've heard the complaints, but what are some solutions that you may have that are feasible solutions, real solutions that are helpful, not just for your household or just thinking, but a really solid way to help our community through distance learning. I gave the example of being creative by taking it outside of the computer and using videos or using nature or using your own body to solve problems, whether they're mathematical or whatever. But what are some solutions that you may have to help?
And any fellow educators out there that are listeners of our show, like, feel free to drop into the Discord or drop a line anywhere that you follow us. We would love to hear some of your experiences, your stories. I mean, heck, we could even do an episode, a bonus episode where we get to chop it up with you and hear some of the experiences, solutions, ideas, struggles, etc., that you might be going through with distance learning. As well as I want to thank everyone for listening at home. You know, we know that it takes it takes some time to get through some of our longer episodes, and we appreciate you. We appreciate you, those that subscribe to us. If you want to continue
100%.
if you want to continue in this conversation outside of here, feel free to hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at Have a Drink Cast and use the hashtag AdCast.
And I would also like to throw this out there too. If you are actually enjoying our podcast, share it, reshare it, have somebody else listen to it. You
Please,
know, we would like to touch the community, touch the world. You know, we don't know everything, but we know a little something. And if you feel so inclined to help us out, we would really appreciate it. And also, I would like to say shout out to our new Patreon subscriber,
Gloria Schoenfeld.
There you go. Hey,
Hey.
hello. We just
Hello.
want to
Thank
say
you.
welcome.
Thank you and welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome to the bar.
we appreciate you. Thank you. And again, don't forget, always tip your bartenders and your waitresses.
Hey.
And if it's not financial, hey, some positive words or love. And again, like I said, share it and
Share. That's
like
the
it, subscribe it, help
biggest
us
way to
out.
support is just share us wherever. I mean, you hear the guy in the beginning of the show, he's like, share us with your friends, your family, your neighbors, anything, anywhere, anyone. Maybe not to an animal. I mean, I said that before, but do pets have podcasts? I don't know, we'll find out. But it looks like it's about that time.
Yes, sir.
I implore you to raise your glasses. And I want to thank y'all for joining us for another successful episode of the Have a Drink podcast, where we'll invite you back to sit, think, and have a drink. It's been us. Peace.
Peace.